September 18th, Springdale Airport Commission to order. Roll call, please.
Joel Gardner. Present. Steve Smith.
Yes.
Jim Ulmer. Karen McCarron. Greg Collier.
Here.
Micah Thompson. Mike Goff.
Here. All right, we'll move on to the minutes. Has everyone had an opportunity to review the minutes? And are there any questions concerning last month's minutes?
Make the motion to approve the minutes as presented.
I'll second that.
Motion and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. All right, comments from the audience. If we have anyone here that is not on the agenda, now is your opportunity to come forward to the commission. All right, let's move on to the Springdale Water Utilities. Rick and Ryan have been working on this for a while. And I know as a commission, we've discussed this for quite a while, trying to find some opportunities, what our best opportunities are for hangar development. And along with that comes the requirement of water. And so these guys are here to educate us on what our best options are or what some options are, and we can decide from there. So Rick and Ryan, thank you both for being here and for working on this for us.
You bet, great. It's our pleasure, of course, and like I said, I did want to introduce Ryan. He's one of our staff engineers at the utility, and he's helped and been very instrumental in the analysis that we performed out there. Greg came up to me, I don't know what it's been, 3 weeks ago, maybe 4 weeks ago, and said, hey, I'd like to sit and talk with you about some of the concerns we have at the airport regarding the delivery of water for certain expansions out there at the airport. And listening to Greg's story, and I'll kind of go through some of that, and then illustrate or show you some of the ways that we can possibly improve some of that water delivery at the airport. Of course, you can see right there, and I assume you can see this on your monitors. Great. I have a laser pointer, but it doesn't work on these screens, so pointing and stuff like that may be a little difficult. Interject anytime you want, ask questions. You're not going to hurt my feelings by interrupting. Anyway, north is to the left over there, and of course you guys certainly know what you got out there at the airport. What I've put on now are lines that exist out there currently today at the airport. Except for the subdivision over to the extreme right, there's 2 lines on the right there that have been recently installed by y'all. Y'all put those in when you built those hangars over in that location. What Greg came to me and said, hey, we're thinking about expanding some of these hangars. Oh, by the way, the new road construction on Powell there, this kind of illustrates what improvements are going to be made over there. And this is going to tie into some of our conversation because there's been some ideas floating out there with the city, with the utility, with y'all, trying to put all this together to see what makes the most sense overall to improve water delivery out there at the airport. In that project, which we're getting ready to get started, probably right after the first of the year, there's opportunities along Powell Street to upgrade. Essentially, there's a 6-inch line that goes up and down through there. Some places that exist out there have 8-inch where there's new construction, and our minimum line size through there would be 8. So there is already an upgrade that's being proposed out there. You can see the 2 locations where there's potential for expansion onto those hangars. We met with the staff here at the city, essentially Ed, to talk about some of the need for fire protection there and the concerns that exist. Greg indicated they'd like to try to add on to those 4 hangars, and in doing so is going to require additional fire protection out there at the airport. We've performed multiple flow tests. The 2 lines to the right at least have, 1,500 to 2,000 gallons per minute capacity. The existing line that runs up and down past the terminal and terminates right there east of the terminal has very little capacity because that line's 6 inches in diameter. And a small line like that, if it gets any length, you can't really deliver much water. Essentially, you can deliver only about 1,000 gallons plus or minus per minute out of that hydrant. So connecting to that is going to be difficult. Now you can see as you go further to the west there, the flow improves to about 1,468 gallons a minute, but still that doesn't tip you over the 1,500 gallon per minute mark that you need to have as a minimum out there. But you'll also have to do improvements to those hangars, firewalls, things of that nature. And I highly recommend that you get somebody to talk to you about those fire requirements because that's not my strong point. The delivery of water out there, we can definitely help you with, but the building materials, the things that are going to be necessary to bring those buildings up to code if you expand, you know, that's certainly something that you're going to have to explore. I think we've talked about that, Greg. Anyway, we show 2 locations right there, a little red dot with a yellow kind of highlight around it. In talking with Ed, that's the locations where you're probably going to have to get water hydrant in those areas. And you can see you're nowhere near that. I mean, there's nothing there. The hope is to try to connect these lines to get capacity through there. We've modeled that hydrant at the end of the 6-inch line currently today about 992 gallons a minute. The upsize that was talked about initially, 8-inch, would bring that hydrant up to just a little bit over 1,000 gallons a minute. There was an idea floated around amongst city folks, well, why don't we just put a 12-inch line along that thoroughfare, and that's going to cure everything. So we plugged that into our model. We've got a hydraulic model, computerized model of our system that we can, you know, basically ask questions to, scenarios, different layouts, things of that nature, to be able to determine what potentially could come out there. And if we replace the line all the way from the entrance into the airport, all the way to 412, you can see it's, you know, you get what, another 50 gallons a minute out of that line. Doesn't seem like it would be worth it if that's what you're trying to do. Anyway, this is a complicated little chart, but you can see that we have multiple routes to reinforce flow to those 2 potential hydrants. It's a matrix. You just have to look through that thing, but essentially you have multiple ways of getting potential capacity to those hydrants. Unfortunately, that FH2 is so far away from anything that it's going to require segment 4 and 5 to be able to really produce much of anything there. But as you follow through that matrix, you can see what kind of anticipated flows that we could get by putting those lines in place.
Real quick, Rick.
You bet.
Look at the cut sheet for FH1, we've got segment 2 crossing over to segment 3. That is, if based on 2158 gallons per minute, that means that most of those segments are put in play, correct? Okay.
This last line, Ray asked us if we could do some cost analysis on it. And these figures that you see for the cost of those lines include about a 30% contingency. Early on in a stage like this, any kind of numbers that we would throw out have a hefty contingency. But if you're going to be putting multiple lines in, you're in the $500,000 range, more or less, to be able to get those kind of capacities out. So this is kind of what you're looking at to be able to get the flow that you're needing out there. It's not chunk change.
Well, didn't the mayor say he'd take care of that?
It raised the flow at that end height of about 50 gallons a minute.
So the real problem is you really don't have a source of water.
And on the west side of the airport, there Those will produce about 2,500 gallons. The problem is if you're expecting to go off of that 6-inch line that goes up into the airport, it's never going to have enough capacity to get a secondary patch.
That's the reason you can't have one fire hydrant, first fire hydrant, you can flow in.
Now, the other thing. Oh,
Hi.
I'm so sorry.
If you don't speak into the mic, they can't hear you on the live. Just want
Okay,
everyone to be
I
aware.
apologize. I got to get on the mic.
Okay, so
Hopefully, I won't say something wrong.
can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Everybody hear me now? I'm sorry. So on fire hydrant 1 and 2, let's back up to back up to 1. If, I'm trying to figure out which fire hydrants in your table, the big table is fire 1, okay. So segment 1 will get you to 1,500 gallon a minute.
If you go segment 1, that will get you 1,500 gallons per minute with, 1-to-1, if you will, in that corner. That'll get you the 1,530 or whatever that says. I can't read that. It's a little far away from me.
What is our fire flow requirement?
Well, it's different for different locations, but 1,500 is the.
Is
What
that
I
the-
recall was you had to have at least 1,500 gallons per minute, but then there would also be requirements for the construction of the building. You'd probably have to go in there and put firewalls and things of that nature to be able to use that without sprinkling, the way I understood.
So when you look at these potential additions here, rather than attaching to that existing hangar, you're going to build them off of that hangar. And that gap is your firewall is what potentially, so that's savings.
It ends up being like a standalone hangar.
No, I don't think he was,
From a fire
Which
rating
range is
standpoint, from a fire rating standpoint.
Yes, my fire ratings.
The way I recall, Greg, and maybe I'm wrong, but he said because you are upgrading these buildings, you're going to have to bring the existing building up to code and may require a firewall put in the existing building. That's what I recall.
Who was he?
Ed?
Ed Stith, sorry.
That's a city inspector. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna ask you a dumb question.
Uh-oh.
Have you ever looked at bringing a line off the 16-inch line over on Old Missouri Road?
Well, haven't run the hydraulics, but if you brought a line off that direction, it would certainly help. The thing about it is getting a bore underneath that airport,
Just do it?
it's going to be expensive.
Yes, it is. But
You
just
were-
think about how little water you got on the west side of the airport.
Well, like I said, there's about 2,500 gallons per minute capacity there, Jim. Says 2379 at 20 PSI. That was a test that was performed here just a few weeks ago. Actual flow test today with the 6-inch line,
Existing conditions.
existing conditions. So, I don't know
The
that,
problem is, that's on Powell Street, not inside the airport.
and that's where you've got to get the fire protection.
If you had major capacity from the 16-inch line interior to the airport, then your options change pretty dramatically.
If you made a connection between that existing 6-inch line over to the 16 like you're discussing, that would give you a considerable amount of capacity.
Get it somewhere into the airport where you can go from that. Have you run the model of what if you did that?
No, we have not run that. I just looked at it from, just from first blush. It just looked like to me that, boring under that airport, you're talking $600-700 a foot. And trying to keep the economy down, if you will, or costs down. It
Still
just
run an
didn't-
airport. at
Just
the
didn't
same
look like
time.
that. And we could run the model. I mean, that's no problem. If you wanted more what ifs, we're certainly here to try to help, to bring, to bring consensus to this. But I could definitely do that. I mean, you could replace that 6-inch line with an 8-inch, just like you've done on the other two lines, and those meet those conditions. But then again, an interconnection between them is less distance. So I was just working with distances.
Remember, when we're talking about utilities like this, we can only use state funding. We cannot use federal funding for this, so our numbers go way down.
The way it was explained to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, Greg, some of the on-site stuff may be possible, but anything that touches off-site is not eligible, the way I
That's correct.
understood that.
So can we go back to the models 1 through 5 page? So I'm looking at segment 4. Just out of stupid curiosity, instead of shooting straight through the tarmac there to get from the actual airport proper to FH2, why can that be considered with a asphalt cut directly over to FH2 as opposed to the 1,073 linear feet through the grass?
What we were trying to do there, Mr. Gardner, is possibly coordinate that with the construction or potential construction with the school, thinking that it could be a dual process or a partnership between the two, and that's why that was put in place. If we were going to do a cut to the north, just right basically from the terminal north, we could model that, but it's going to have to be reinforced somewhere else because the flow there is only 1,000 gallons a minute. It's only going to go down more. So you're going to have to reinforce it from another direction.
Well, and then it would be also reinforced with segment 5. I'm just looking at, 293,000 for 1,000 square foot or 1,000 linear foot. And we could cut a third off of that by doing a straight shot off of the terminal straight over to FH2 to join up with segment 5.
That might work. That might. We could check that. I'd want to run the numbers before we said anything, but there's potential there.
Ideally, of course, we're well out on this, but ideally, as Rick said, we can partner with the school to tie in there and hopefully split some funding. That was the whole reason behind going that direction.
Rick,
There's 1,000 scenarios that we could run. So if, as you think about this more, just get us some information because, we're happy to help.
so are you, all of these fire flows are with a 20 PSI residual?
The 20 PSIs are generally at the hydrant that you're pulling from.
Yes.
It's not some node off in the system.
Does it create any low pressures with those kind of fire flows out in the system? Okay.
Not below 20 PSI. It's certainly going to lower pressure along Powell Street, but, those are short-term things. We just have to maintain 20.
So, is there a possibility that we can get some help with anything that's interior to the airport property? Is that what I understood a while ago?
Yeah, so I think we have $300,000 a year available for that from a state grant. Per year. Greg can confirm that, but I think that's correct.
So, segment 5, which is red, is off-site principally. Is that right?
For the most part, yeah.
Okay.
We're trying to
And segment
miss
4.
asphalt, Jim, is what we're trying to do.
Okay, segment 4 is principally off-site. 1, 2, and 3 are on-site, right?
Yes.
How does wastewater play into any of these costs? Or wastewater is a totally separate analysis?
Yeah, I don't think, as long as you can get the wastewater to Powell Street, you're in good shape. You're not going to generate any kind of wastewater out there at the airport to speak of. Just a couple of bathrooms and, you're not producing. It's
One more
just a
question.
money situation.
At the end of the 8-inch line that goes north, on the south end of what is now the airport, does that fire hydrant exist?
Help me, Jim, I'm having trouble. Where are you at now exactly? Are you talking about that long 8-inch,
The 4 long hangers on the right side,
right?
okay, just south of that is the 8-inch line coming off Powell Street.
Correct?
Are those 2 fire hydrants I see there?
Yeah, they exist.
Okay, is there fire flow on that end one?
There's a flow test right there at the one hydrant, 2,400 gallons a minute.
That's the line that we installed, what,
Is the
A while
other
back.
line in place, the one to the south of it? that is-
Correct, it is.
Have you done a fire flow test in those?
We haven't run a test, but, we ran it through the model. They're above 1,500.
So all these numbers are model results.
The numbers you see here are field measurements.
Okay,
The numbers that you see here are modeled, well, actually, I think the first one there is actually a field condition.
That was actually modeled.
Was it modeled too? Okay. Those in the matrix, those are all modeled values. Average daily demand, 2025 conditions with our new transmission and our tank. So those are what you'll see next summer, those values.
this is part of a presentation, you can't expand that aerial photograph any.
It's a PDF. Well, yeah, it's a PowerPoint. I can't
You
really
understand?
zoom in.
Okay.
If we could get access to our GIS, we could look at it more critically if you'd like, Jim. If you want, we could sit down with a group of y'all and go through the analysis just like we did with Greg, dynamically while we're sitting at the table, come up with scenarios. You've done that 100 times.
Maybe. Maybe more, maybe less.
At least 100 times.
any
Well-
questions for Rick while we've got him here? This was a huge
I'd
help.
like to talk with you more about that. I see some possibilities. I think we even need to think maybe further down the road with regard to some what ifs. If we could do things interior to the airport, that would give us a longer term solution to the fire hydrant 1 and 2 might be a big deal.
Certainly happy. Come by, let's set a time and we can sit down with the model and look through it. Happy to do it. There's 1,000 ways of, skinning this cat, basically, and, these are just a few options. You guys certainly have spent more time looking at this airport than we have, and certainly understand what's going on out there with potential construction and the needs that exist, and that is extremely helpful when we're trying to find a solution, an economic solution.
And there was no scenario coming off of 412 for improvement, was there?
There was no scenario, help me, Greg.
Coming off of any line on 412 to the airport? Or was it just from Powell?
It was, all of these analyses were just from Powell. And since we're on the cusp of working on Powell, to see if it made sense to make that line bigger on Powell, to be able to help feed into the interior of the airport. The results of what we determined were that that wouldn't substantially enhance the interior there. You already can deliver 2,400 gallons along Powell as it exists today. You're losing 1,000 going in there and trying to work from that old 6-inch line.
One more thing. In order to digest all of this, would you mind sending us a PDF to Beth and let her send that
Yeah, I'll be
to us
happy
to
to.
look at, sort through? Because we're kind of, it's going to take a little while, at least for me to kind of,
Like I said, Jim, give us a couple hours, we'll sit down, we can go through all this stuff.
Okay.
We've done it
but I
before.
mean, before we get together, I think it'd be helpful if we could,
Sure,
have
well,
it in
happy
our
to give you the
hands and-
presentation.
Keep in mind, if you're going to meet with the commission, you
I-
might meet individually with the
Yeah, no,
commission.
I understand that.
Or if the commission has questions, maybe they could give those to Jim when he goes to meet to save multiple visits with you.
Well, guys, we appreciate it. Like I said, any questions, just let us know.
Rick, really appreciate everything you guys have done.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you.
I like what you've done, the way you approached it. Thank you.
We'll talk. Thanks.
Okay. So we're not taking any action on anything today, but I know we've been kicking that around for quite some time, so I thought that would be very helpful to all of us.
I'll just say, I think it's probably really the next step we got to start looking at before we start doing any more development.
And we'll get Greg's clarification. It may be 300,000 per project, but he'll be here. And I didn't say, his wife had their baby early, 3 weeks early, and so that's why he's not here today. So Austin decided to come after his baby came, and now Greg is not here, so maybe we'll get everybody here before too long. All right, speaking of that, let's go to our new FBO manager. I don't know that everyone has met Brian before. Brian's been around a long time. Brian Danks took over for Daniel. So you might introduce yourself a little bit and then give us an update.
All right. Well, good afternoon, everybody. It's nice to see everybody. Nice to meet some folks. My name is Brian Danks, and I have been at Summit for 8 years now. I started back in September of 16. Yeah. So yeah, I'm excited to be the newly minted airport or the general manager for Summit and looking to do some good stuff. I get right into the numbers for August. We're up 28% from July, and for jet fuel, and our 100 low lead, we're down 17% from July. But it's kind of tracking, pretty much with the years it's kind of, we're right in the pocket. Everything's kind of going along, and we're just about half of what we were in August of last year, in the August of last year at this point. So we're kind of right on track. So as far as things that are going on at the FBO, we're not going to be doing our Halloween trunk or treat this year. I just don't have the bandwidth to try and organize that and run that and learn the manager spot at the same time. We'll look at it again next year, and I'm sure we'll have something going. And I don't know if we had any spring events last year. I know we had the car show in the summer, this past summer, which was a really big hit. I know there were a couple of whoops with the with the crowd size we had, but we'll definitely get that addressed for next year too. But yeah, I've been in and around aviation my whole life. My dad worked for the FAA, and so I grew up before I could walk at the airport and going to work with him and everything. So it's in my blood, aviation. I'm passionate about it. So I'm looking forward to doing good things at the FBO. So, do you guys have any questions for me?
Any questions?
Welcome aboard.
Well, thanks. Oh, I did want to address something. I was looking at Rick's PowerPoint up there. That line that he's taught that goes up beside the north side of the terminal, goes to that fire hydrant. There were questions about just tacking us onto that line and cutting straight across the ramp. My only concern would be how would that affect operations if they're cutting into the asphalt? Because we've got Arrow right there, and, what kind of impact that would have.
There's a lot of scenarios that may
Yeah,
impact
there's lots, so.
We're just in the early stages.
Oh,
right
yeah,
now.
way early. I saw that, just had to kind of hit my brain a little bit, so.
Thank you.
But anyway, thank you, everybody.
All right, Austin, welcome back. You're up.
Well, it's great to see everybody again, and it's good to be back at work. Family is happy and healthy, and, I'm very fortunate and very grateful that I was able to spend that time with them. Although my wife was oddly excited to finally get me out of the house for a little bit, so I don't know what that was about. But anyways, back to business. We finally did get our adjusters report from our hailstorm earlier this year, and we had substantial roof damage. So we're gonna be going through there and replacing dang near all of them. So I'll be in communication with our contractor in the next days and weeks and get that all planned out. As far as rent goes, we did have a couple of past due tenants, but they were contacted this morning, so they should be getting on it. And that's it.
I apologize. I was taking some notes and I didn't get everything you said there. Will you go back on the damage, what all areas were damaged?
Yeah, so basically we had damage to everything out there, all city-owned buildings, except for the exception of the terminal. So that roof held up pretty well, but we will be getting it a new paint job because the stucco and the paint did take some damage. But other than that, everything else will be replaced.
We're talking about all hangars?
Roofs, yes, all hangars. All hangars.
When did we last do those? 3 years ago?
Yeah, 3 years ago. Yep. So along with the tower. So the tower's getting a new roof as well.
So are we getting bids on that, I guess?
I'm not real sure. I don't have a good answer for you on that right now, but I'll be getting with James when he gets back and ironing all that out.
All right. Any questions for Austin?
I just got a quick question on the through the fence fees. We've got half a dozen of them that are 30 to 60 days past due. And are we attacking that with full vigor?
Yes. So actually, yes. So on Tuesday, I was actually in communication with all of them. So they should be working on getting that paid up.
You might make note of those and bring them back next month and we'll see where we're at. Anything else for Austin? Thank you, Austin.
Thank you.
Glad you're back. All right, Will's up. Will's here. Will Calloway, he's here for Greg today. I didn't want to put you on the spot on some of this because you hadn't been in the loop with some of the stuff that he and I have been working on. So I'll let you get us our Garver update, though.
Yes, sir. So I've got 3 different projects for the commission today. On the tower rehab project, tile, carpet, and laminate touch-ups are expected to be completed by October the 10th. They are still waiting on radios to be delivered for installation, but they did get the equipment racks delivered here, I think, last week. So they're getting that scheduled to be installed on the tower rehab. As far as the runway rehab goes, I believe we finished the punch list items of construction this morning. So that should be done as far as construction on the airfield, and we'll get that all that paperwork pushed and getting towards closeout on that project. Any questions on those projects?
On the tower, do you know where we are as far as excess funding and what we're going to be able to use that for? We've kicked around a couple of different ideas.
The last I heard, Greg was talking about an additional generator, but I do not have any information other than that. But I can get with Greg on that.
That's okay. You can wait till next month.
All right.
Any questions for Will?
We did shine over the city attorney report. Was there anything?
He's not.
Okay. And the only other thing I had was the strategic plan. John Ross has sent out an email yesterday
with that SWAT recap. So everybody got that?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, any old business to discuss? I'm not sure if I mentioned this last month or not. I can't remember, unfortunately. I wanted to, if I didn't, I should have. Bill Schoonover passed away, for those that don't know. He was in poor health with cancer, fighting cancer, and got pneumonia and could not overcome it. So Bill was a longtime commissioner here, chairman of our commission, and very involved in the airport for many, many years. And just wanted to let everybody know that. Any other comments from commissioners? We're adjourned. Thanks, everyone.